floodgates of inspiration opened. Peter has now spent over 25 years unearthing an aqua alta amount of forensic evidence that has been submerged in the waters of the mystical city of Venice for half a millennia.
Did you know that the title page of Shakespeare's sonnets holds secrets that could change our understanding of this work? The sonnets have been shrouded in mystery for over 400 years until I discovered the esoteric sources used by the poet. What does esoteric mean, you might ask? Well, the poet intended for the sonnets to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest in Jewish Kabbalah. As Rowen Atkinson put it in Keeping Mum, God moves in mysterious ways and he knows what's best for us. So that's what it really means. This mystery includes the title page of the sonnets. I have revealed much in my first volume of a comprehensive commentary of Shakespeare's sonnets, though in this episode I will delve deeper into the mysteries than I did in the book. Welcome to this episode of What Secrets Hide in Shakespeare's Sonnets title page. I'm Peter Matthews. The sonnets title page and the dedication page have been shrouded in mystery, with most scholars believing there are some cryptic messages, hidden codes, or subtle symbolism that lie beneath the surface of this iconic poetry of Shakespeare's sonnets. Let's dive in and examine what they might have meant. However, the Freemasons of the world would have us believe that the dots line up to form right-angled triangles, or the compass and the square, and even Thales Theorem, which are obvious emblems of Freemasonry. Others will focus on the TT and ignore the rest, while others will focus on the eyes. Well, I'm here to reveal an esoteric Jewish cipher that dates back to antiquity, which unlocks overlooked aspects of the title page in literary history. The first part that I'll cover today is not in any of my written works. Let's first examine the headpiece at the top of the front cover, as you can see here. Now, what I'll do is I will zoom in, and here it is here, which has a stark difference to the Rape of Lucrece in 1594, which is dedicated to the Right Honourable Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton and Baron of Titchfield. Though it has the same head and 7 plumes, which you can see the head at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7 plumes covering her head. And I'll click over to the next one, and here's the Rape of Lucrece with the same head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now there are some stark differences, because here she is covering her nakedness beneath, and instead of cherubims, there are demons either side, here and here. Now, if you've watched my previous episode, you will know that these 2 demonic creatures blowing the shofar depict since men prove beasts. The shofar was used, which is from the Rape of Lucrece. The shofar was used in festivals, but which is here. You can see that is clearly a Jewish shofar. I have one right here in my home. And it's used in festivals, but also as a declaration of war. So, next one over. Now this is Venus and Adonis, 1593. So it's slightly earlier, and we have the same head and the same covering the nakedness, and here we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have the same demons on either side, and we have the shofar. So it's basically identical to the rape of Lucrece. But do you notice something here? There are two male peacocks. Pun intended. Now, back to the Sonnets headpiece. There are no peacocks in here. All demonic creatures. Well, these scrolls are intended to look like demonic creatures by the look of it. But you have the cherubims with the hand almost holding them back, which is quite interesting. The flowers on either side depict the rose lily. They're absolutely beautiful, which is found in the Song of Songs 2:1, where the bride of King Solomon, the Shulamite queen, declares, "I am the rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys." Now we can see the bride's face here in the centre with a knot tied to the rose lily. Round there, and there down comes, sort of looks like legs. Now, meaning she is married into the vine of King Solomon and became part of the royal house of David to which Jesus descends. This figure represents the bride of Christ in the Garden of Eden, with the two holy cherubim holding back the two demonic spirits above the lowly creatures. And what are they? The two rabbits, which obviously are in the Garden of Eden. Now below her are three fish, which is quite interesting, which I'll mention shortly. Upon her head is those 7 plumes. Now these 7 plumes of illumination are from the Book of Illumination, or the Jewish work of Sefer Bahir, that refer to the 7 lower Sephirot, and as they are here from Hesed, Geruva, Tif'eret, Netzah, Yod, Hod, Yisod, and Malkut. The sonnets reveal the Jewish doctrine of the Tree of Life, along with Christianity imagery that originated from the Torah. Revelation 2:7 tells us, anyone with ears to hear must listen to the Spirit and understand what he is saying to the churches. To everyone who is victorious, I will give you fruit from the tree of life from in the paradise of God. Now the understanding comes from 2 portions. The first is from the New Testament, where the river of God flowed down from the throne, down the main street, and on each side of the river grew a tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit with a fresh crop each month. The leaves were used for medicine to heal the nations. Revelation 22 verse 2. Or for my Jewish friends, this comes from Ezekiel 47 verse 12. After all, Jesus was a Jewish rabbi, like his younger brother James the Sadiq, or for the English, James the Just, as recognised by most Christians. The 3 fish are not Atlantic salmon, as some scholars suggest, nor are they a Christian imagery. Now, they are actually called the gefilte fish, who my Jewish friends will no doubt understand are used in Shabbat meals made from carp, pike, mullet, whitefish, or Mediterranean salmon, which has been the tradition from the time of their captivity in Egypt, even though some Egyptologists say is connected to Hathor. But I very much dispute that. So here we are to look at the Egyptian model. In this imagery here we have Mena and his family fishing with two of the fish here coming up and the other one getting away. And they're entirely different fish. The Christian tradition in the Gospels is 5 loaves and 2 fish, which were multiplied by Jesus to feed 5,000. It's been postulated that they represent the triune Godhead, but various countries around the world, including China, Indonesia, India, have similar imageries to their deities. So, frankly, I don't believe this is valid. In the Jewish work of Tosefta Paya 4:8, if the traveller arrives on Shabbat and stays overnight, they are to give him enough fish, meaning 3 fish, vegetables, oil, beans or lentils for 3 meals. If they know him, they are to also clothe him. Quite interesting indeed. Then what's this dealing with? It's dealing with the Jewish mitzvah and preparing for the marriage supper of the Lamb. In other words, the return of the Messiah. It's an incredible Jewish imagery on the interior cover of the Sonnets. Now, in light of the 7 Sephirot, the 3 fish are actually an illustration of the 3 upper Sephirot, illumining the works within, because we have to understand the earliest version of the Tree of Life was actually inverted. As I already revealed in previous episodes, the title Shakespeare's Sonnets has been debated for centuries, yet Emilio Bassano left us a secret code over 400 years ago in Salve Deus Rex Judaeorum, or Hail God, King of the Jews. And what is it? That we, with him, the eternity might rise. This precious Passover feed upon, O Queen. Let your fair virtues in my glass be seen. This passage refers to when the day of reckoning, when the Messiah returns and the daughters of Jerusalem attend the marriage supper of the Lamb with Shekinah as their queen. So we also know this depicts Shekinah, though in the end of days it is about the rising of the Dark Lady from the Zohar of Mantua, which is one of the 2 primary sources of the Sonnets. The title I already discussed in episode 1, which you can watch that episode for more information. I want to move on to the next aspect, which is this portion here. Never before imprinted. Most scholars leave this and don't even bother, but some focus on the eyes and here. Well, let me tell you, this has an incredible connection to the Zohar of Mantua of 1558 to 60, which printing was supervised by Rabbi Isaac Bassano. It states in Hebrew, on August the 4th, 1558, the first print edition of the Zohar appeared, meaning never before imprinted. There is a secret code in Salve Deus Rex Judaeorum and the Dark Lady Sonnets from the Zohar of Mantua on the imprint of the Hebrew letters. Now, I'm going to flick over to that and show you. And here are the Hebrew letters. And that is Kof, Resh, Shin, Tav, reading from right to left. Now this refers to the crown of Malkut, allowing us to connect to the Tetragrammaton, and the Tetragrammaton is the 4-letter name of God, which is Yud He Vav He, and it allows us to connect to oral Torah. This is the Tetragrammaton with the Hebrew letters, although I will not pronounce the name of God for my Jewish readers. During the time of Maimonides, if I can pronounce that correctly, he changed the use of the name of God to Hashem, because they were using the Lord's name in vain with amulets. Now, there's been all sorts of assertions that it was for other reasons, but I've read the original documents and I've confirmed that for myself. We will speak more on this section as we investigate the portion of Mishpatan and the Dark Lady's Sonnets. But that's what never before imprinted means. It's because of never before imprinted. The Zohar, this was the first Zohar ever printed, and it allows us to connect to the Tetragrammaton, to the oral Torah, and to God himself. It's incredible. And we've missed it. So the next section, now to the 3 lines. But Peter, there's only 2 lines. Yes, I know, because one is not yet revealed. Bear with me for a moment. We find the same lines with the later first quarto in various plays, however, all with crest artworks or text in between them. I believe the sonnets have been finished in this way intentionally without text or artwork. Now, we'll flick over again. Now, here we go with the later edition. This is the 6th edition of the Rape of Lucrece from 1616. We have 3 lines with the text newly revised in between the 2 lower lines. Yet in the case of the sonnet, they did not place never before imprinted in here, for very good reason. Let me start with an explanation from one of the sources to the sonnets, which is Henry Cornelius Agrippa's 1531 Book of Occult Philosophy, Book 2, Chapter 2, where Agrippa teaches on the philosophical virtue of time, Hebrew numbers, and lines as they affect creation. And this is a quote directly from his book. For time consists of numbers, and all motion and action and all things which are subject to time and motion, harmony also, and voices have their power by, and consist of numbers and their proportions arising from numbers, do by lines. And I've underlined that for a reason. And points make characters and figures, and these are proper to magical operations. The middle, which is to be betwixt both, being appropriated by declining to the extremes, as in the use of letters. So, what is that actually telling us? Well, in the Hebrew, alphabetical letters also represent numerals. And I'll flick over. Now, this is basic Hebrew gematria. As you can see, Aleph, which is this letter here, represents 1. And this is the Hebrew alphabet. Okay? And you'll see there's different, that is still the letter Kof, and it represents 20 in whichever form it is. And the same with Pei and Sadi and Mem. But that is Hebrew gematria. And as you will learn in Sonnet 8 when we get to it, everything in creation has a harmony of letters and numbers, that they also have keys that unlock gates. In this case, according to Zohar 1:143b, we are dealing with faith. So the 2 lines refer to the Hebrew letter Hey. Now I'll go back so you can see that, if I can get this to work. Hey, which is in the name of God, which represents there. So we'll go forward. So it represents he. Anything above the line delineates the upper world or heaven. Anything below the second line delineates the lower world here on earth. Therefore, in between the line is Vav, which represents the Blessed Holy One, Yud He Vav He, connecting the upper and lower worlds. So that is what these two mean. And when the Messiah returns, even the darkness in this world will be illuminated with his brightness that is incomprehensible to mankind, because both luminaries of divinity will be opened. What are you talking about, Peter? Well, in the Zohar they talk about two great luminaries, and Emilia used them in the Sonnets. And we are talking about Bina, which is the dark divine mother, or reminiscent of the moon, the female aspect of God known as Adonai, and Malkut, which is the sun, or often refers to Shekinah, or the spirit of Yud He Vav He. Thus, when the name William Shakespeare is placed in between the two top lines, he's placing himself in the place of God. That doesn't sound right, does it? It means he dominates and subdues his brothers. And in the end, he will become a servant to Israel. Wow. Emilia has used very subtle symbolism that can only be picked up by certain learned scholars. Will William Shakespeare really write this or do this knowing the imagery? I don't believe that he had any idea of the meaning. None at all. See, let's go to... I won't continue that. I'll pick it up on the next one, which the next episode is going to be on this, and this is incredible. I'll get to that shortly. Now, most scholars assume this T.T., and you can see it again here, but it's slightly different. The T.T. is for Thomas Thorpe, the publisher, who is a member of the Stationers' Company, or a fraternity or guild of stationers, which it has been suggested by Catherine Duncan Jones that it was actually an unauthorised publication, the Sonnets. Possibly even suppressed, because evidence to date has been based upon preconceptions that William Shakespeare wrote it without forensic evidence. I won't comment on that further. I'll just leave her research as stands. Thomas Thorpe engaged the printer George Eld, and the two booksellers were William Aspley and John Wright. That's the St. Paul's Churchyard. At that time, Aspley's shop was at the Sign of the Parrot in St. Paul's Cross Churchyard. It was a notorious 16th century book-selling venue where Venus and Adonis and The Rape of Lucrece were also sold. And you can see here there's little shops all around the front here and through the courtyard here. St. Paul's also had an open-air pulpit in the grounds of the churchyard with the line of shops. Now, the other one is just up here, which is John Wright's shop was at Christ Church Gate near Newgate along the old jail, commonly called the Old Bailey, for felons and trespassers, especially Jews. Quite interesting they'd say something like that, but anyway. Now, I'll just zoom out slightly. Now that's the old jail there, right there. So it was probably in somewhere in there near there's the Newgate there. So it's probably in here somewhere. We don't know the exact location. So It just gives us an idea. John Stowe recorded how Aaron, the son of Abraham, a Jew at London, and other Jews were constrained to pay 20,000 marks and 2 terms in a year, or else to be kept perpetual prisoners in Newgate of London, which is here, as I mentioned before, Old Bailey. I believe it was a special place in Amelia's heart to give back to those in captivity. There have been numerous suggestions as to what the TT on the interior title page might have meant. If you notice, I blown these up on purpose. If you notice the T's on the left, which are these ones here, they're the John Wright imprint on the interior cover, and then these are the dedication. They're different. Now, I'll cover this one in the later episode, but I just wanted to touch on it today. The differences are found in the annals of history, such as Pliny's 1st century Latin works, which gives us an idea, although it's very difficult to see here, on the history of Rome from its foundation, where he uses the TT in Latin. Now, the key is really found in Agrippa's book, which is down the bottom here, which is his 1531 3 books of occult philosophy, book 1, chapter 74, where the first column below here refers to the astrological sign of Pisces, then the Hebrew letter Shin, then the Greek letter Tau, followed by the Latin letter T. Now, I've increased the size of those so you can see it better here. It appears to be exactly like the T on the interior cover and the dedication. So, in the Hebrew, Agrippa tells us it represents the letter Shin. So what does all this mean? The sonnets were penned in the age of Pisces. In Judaism, the Hebrew letter Shin represents the name of God, El Shaddai, meaning God Almighty, and was one of the earliest names of God used in the Torah and the Zohar. 2 shins, the 2 letter shins, are the opening 2 letters in the Zohar, which should tell you something, which I'll cover later when we open. And then we have the rose with it. It signifies peace, perfection, and shalom. During the Babylonian history of the Jews, a Rex Judaeorum, or king of the Jews, of the Nasi Benevisti family, namely Rabbi Machir ben Yehuda Zakkai Nasi, or commonly known as Machir, formed the letter Shin with his hands as he recited the priestly blessing, or basically the raising of the hands, in Numbers 6:24 to 26, to connect Israel to the patriarchs and their attributes: Abraham, mercy; Isaac, courage; and Jacob, glory. Now, I'm not going to do that today. I'll leave that for Israel. But what better imagery could Emilia Bassano have used to place upon the front cover in honour of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? The sonnets have been shrouded in mystery for over 400 years, until I discovered these esoteric sources used by the poets. There actually are secret codes, cryptic messages, and subtle symbolism that lie beneath the surface of this iconic Jewish poetry called Shakespeare's Sonnets. I encourage you to share your thoughts on the title page in the comments below, or if there's something in particular you want me to cover, please mention it below. Please subscribe to keep abreast of the next video on the Hebrew cipher used in the dedication that unlocks another 11th century Jewish poet. Thanks very much for watching, and bless you. Namely, Rabbi Machir ben Yehuda